All right, everybody, I'm going to get going. I'm going to be respectful of everybody's time. This is a meeting that will be recorded and it will be posted. I know already there was a question or a comment in the chat that some said Wednesday, some said Tuesday, or whatever it happens to be. Yesterday afternoon, the high school head coaches came over to the middle school and met with the prospective high school athletes that were in the 8th grade. So that was one meeting. And tonight is more about the registration part that parents and guardians can deal with. So my name is Mike Seymour. I'm the athletic director at Great Valley High School. We also have with us tonight Mike Bagnarelli, who will be the Great Valley Middle School Dean of Students next year, and he'll also be sort of overseeing athletics for the middle school there.
Hi, everybody.
We may have some of our coaches that will hop on board. We're encouraging everybody to put their questions down in the chat. If you didn't hear me say it a couple minutes ago, we will try to answer them the best that we can as we go. And if for some reason we don't know what the answer is, I will write down those questions and get those answers to you as fast as we can. Really, this meeting is intended for two different groups. One group are the parents and the athletes that are in 6th grade this year that will be at 7th graders and be able to do PIAA athletics for the first time next year. And then the other group is our up and coming freshmen who were 8th graders this year, hoping to get their family some of the information so that they can use it and know what to expect for next year in the registration process. Okay. All right, so some basic ideas of what the agenda happens to be here. There are some PIAA updates, and I'll share those. Sports that are offered at Great Valley Middle School and sports that are offered at the high school. So there are some differences between the two. The high school has more, more teams than the middle school happens to have. For those of you who have people or have kids that are going to be in the high school next year, if they don't have the head coach contact information, that'll be on this PowerPoint that we're going through. I'll walk you through how you sign up. I did sign up my daughter today. I know early in the day, form relief was having an issue, wasn't a Great Valley issue, and we did fix that. So I know my daughter, who's going to be a senior next year, I did go through that process as a parent. It's not the easiest thing to do if you haven't done it before, but once you get it done once, it should be easy for you. I do have a slide that says I just don't get it, so we'll review some of those things. And as you can go through the rest of the list there, it's just some basic facts, the way we communicate. And then, you'll have an opportunity if you have any questions for us, we'll try to answer them. So the bottom line is middle school and high school athletics are different than what you have for your youth and your travel. We are part of the PIAA, and they have rules and guidelines that we follow. And we're also members of the Chessmont Conference. And so both our middle school and high school teams belong to that conference, and they have a set of rules that we follow and so on. So, sometimes you'll hear about the Central League or the PAC or the Suburban one. Those are other leagues that are out there. Malvern Prep, Haverford School, and some of the prep schools belong to a completely different thing, not the PIAA. So if you have any questions about that, that's easy enough for us to answer. But for us, we deal with the PIAA and the Chessmont. Okay, so as we look at it for the middle school, so these are for next year's 7th and 8th graders. In the fall, and this is what we're primarily worried about right now, are boys and girls cross country, boys and girls soccer, cheerleading, field hockey, football, and volleyball. So those are all the sports that we offer in the fall. In the winter, they're not quite as many sports: boys and girls basketball, cheerleading, and wrestling. And then finally, in the spring, we have baseball, softball, boys and girls lacrosse, boys and girls track and field, and I think that's all of them for that one. Okay. Now the high school, you can see the list is a little bit longer, so a lot of them are the same. So we have cross country for the boys and girls. We also have boys and girls golf. We have boys and girls soccer, cheerleading again, field hockey again, football again. And one of the other ones that's a little bit different for the fall is girls tennis, and we have volleyball as well. For the winter, it's boys and girls basketball, boys and girls indoor track and field. We have boys and girls swimming. We also in the past have offered diving. That has become a little bit problematic. And if you have any specific questions about that, I'll be happy to answer those. But we'll save that for the people that really want to know about diving, cheerleading, and wrestling. And in the spring, We have baseball and softball, again, just like the middle school, boys and girls lacrosse, boys and girls track and field, just like the middle school. And then we also have boys tennis, and that is a spring sport. So I know that's a lot of things for people to go over. Here happen to be our fall head coaches at the high school. So if your child was able to go to the meeting yesterday as an 8th grade student, these are the people that they got to meet yesterday. These are the Great Valley School District emails. They can use their school issues or Great Valley School emails to email them. You on your own can email them, as parents. The kids' emails cannot go to outside people, but you can see those are our fall sports specifically for the high school. And one of the reasons that's important to understand is the fall athletics starts before the school year begins, except for football in the middle school. Middle school, usually the first day of practice is until the second day of school. So that's one little difference there. And then just so you have them, here are the winter contacts for those people. And almost all of our sports, whether it be fall, winter, or spring, do some off-season training. So it'd be great for your 9th graders to be involved, next year's 9th grader to be involved in that. Right now we had our swimming and our wrestling coaches step down. So we're in the process of trying to hire coaches for that. And then here, for now, here is what our spring sports for the high school happen to be and the contact people. So again, all this information is available on the websites, meaning for the information about the high school on the high school website, and the information I'm about to show you in a second here for the middle school contact people, that's available on the middle school website as well. So you can see where those happen to be. So here is a little snippet of where we are for all the coaches we have for middle school next year. A majority of our coaches that are listed here for the middle school are also teachers, which is, gives us a huge advantage to have people that are in the building. Not all of them happen to be at the high school or at the middle school, but these are some people that you can reach out. We still have 1 or 2 coaches that we need, but we're in pretty good shape, to be able to get going on the start of the season for the middle school as well. So if your child is going to be in 7th grade next year and you're looking down the fall sports, if they've crossed paths with any of these particular teachers before or coaches before, that would be somebody to reach out. And all of these people use their Great Valley email as well. And you can see there's a link right here that you can find those things if you need that. Okay. Although club sports do not fall under athletics for the high school or the middle school, we certainly want to support our middle school and high school clubs. So you can see Crew goes 8th to 12th grades, and Coach Brewer is a great person as part of the booster club to reach out for. So if your child has an interest, whether they're going into 8th grade all the way up through 12th grade, we do have Crew. And then we also have ice hockey. So ice hockey, Dave would be the contact person for that. And we will post this PowerPoint as well. And all these buttons are activated as well. And you can take you directly to the information that you need. Okay. So now here's the
Mike, can I add something real quick?
Absolutely, please, Mike. Thank you.
The middle school also has a mountain biking team.
Okay. All right. Great.
Okay, that's a club team. Mr. Leary runs that, and he's a tech ed teacher. And so he'll start putting announcements out for that.
Great. There was a question in the chat room, was asking about next year. Next year, at this point, we have coaches in place. We have a schedule in place. We will have 9th grade football, JV football, and varsity football. So all 3.
Yeah, that's what I was answering that.
Yeah, we thank you. We did have freshmen a couple of years ago, and our numbers got at the point where we had enough freshmen, but not enough JV kids. And, some of the older kids couldn't play freshmen. So we decided about halfway through the season to shut down the freshman season so that everybody could play in the JV. So that's where we go. All right. So this is new within the last 3 years. So Form Relief happens to be a company that Great Valley hires to basically post and organize all the PIAA information that we need to collect in order to have the season start. So for instance, June 1st is not a Great Valley date. That is a PIAA date. So what you would do if you are a sixth grade parent, this will be new for you unless you've had an older child that's already done this. If you do have a child that's already done it, you already have a family account. You just got to create one for your new athlete. If your child played a sport in middle school, whether it be this year or last year, you already have an account. And so whether you're moving up to the high school or you're still in middle school and so on, you would use that same account information. It is HIPAA and FERPA compliant, so there's the the privacy issue is it shouldn't be a problem. It did open today. We have plenty of time for you to get those things in, and I'll go step by step what you need to do. But if you remember all those forms from years ago, there were 6 pages and then your physical page and so on. It is a lot of background information for you to fill in the first time, but from season to season that carries over. So you only have to fill it in once if you go through it the first time. So basically, what used to be the Great Valley emergency card is now all that information can be pulled directly from Form Relief. So if there's an issue going on or you have a minor injury or something like that, and we need to reach a parent that doesn't happen to be there, we have all that information that comes directly from what we can get from Form Relief. That's not a separate card that you need to fill out. Pages 1 through 5, and you can see also page 6 and so on. Those are all things that you'll go through and you'll sign off what you need to, you'll sign off everything that you need to sign. There are a lot of things that both the students and parents need to sign. It is cumbersome in the first time through, but once you get that through that once, it's a pretty easy process. If you play or sign up for a fall sport and you have all your information supplied, if you want to play that winter or that spring sport, no matter what level you're at, you just go back in there and basically you're doing the recertification. And as long as you finish the season healthy and not injured, you go in, you don't need any doctor information. You go in, parent just signs, we acknowledge that, the child is going to play whatever the sport happens to be, and you go from there. If you do happen to finish a season, there is a way to do the recertification after injury there as well. And, if you have any questions for that, once we deal with injuries, we can talk about the athletic training component and so on. If you have specific questions, that'll be easy to fill out. For both the middle school and high school, we'll go back. For both the middle school and high school, we do ask for an impact testing waiver. With things as chaotic as they've been because of trying to navigate the pandemic, we have not started the impact testing at the middle school, but we do have that in place, and we're hoping to do that for next year. And for those of you who don't know what impact testing is, it's basically a company that offers software that any of the athletes competing in what's considered by the PIAA a contact sport, that they would go in and they would answer a series of questions on a computer. It takes about 25 minutes. And what that does is basically it times the speed at which you answer those questions, and it provides a baseline for a physician down the road if the child were ever to get a concussion. Impact testing after the fact only is really helpful if they had got the initial test before the injury. So the key is to get it ahead of time. So we do that for all our contact sports at the high school, and we do have plans in place to try to do that for the middle school next year if we can get that. So what we basically ask there is for a signature for that as well, and they won't let you complete your registration unless you agree to that. Okay, so you still need to get a physical from a physician. So it's now considered Section 7. It used to be Section 6, and they just added a page in there. And the number of pages don't really matter for you, but available on our website is this exact form that we just have a screenshot of there, and that's what you bring to the doctor. So I was lucky enough today that my daughter was due for a physical today, and so we brought that form in and they filled it out there. The problem is if you are a family that started your cycle of physicals on a date that doesn't really match up with June 1st. So if your insurance company doesn't allow or pay for multiple physicals a year, and I don't think any do, what you would need to do is to go to that physician, bring the form in, and most doctors, if you had a physical with the last year, will date it after June 1st, and you can just bring that form and do it that way. Another way that you can do that is you can also go to a Minute Clinic, and a lot of Minute Clinics also offer physicals for middle school and high school age kids, but you need to get that physical form, and then you need to submit it. And I'm going to show you what that process is like. We do actually have a video of the people from Form Relief walking step by step what you need to do. All the stuff that's on Form Relief is also able to be translated using Google Translator. I'm not going to show you the video here, but it would play the video. If you click this little button down there, it'll actually literally walk you through the process if you have any questions. They also have a helpline that you can use as well. Okay, so let me backtrack for 1 second. When you get this form, once you have it, you need to scan it, or you can take a picture of it with your phone. You need to go onto Form Relief, and in the physician section, there's a little button that says download. And that's where you put the physical in there. And then we on our side can see the physical. We can go through and do all those checks and make sure they have everything ready to go. I would encourage everybody to do that within a week before the season starting. As we get closer, we're going through a lot of things, and we can only go through so many registrations in the last minute. So, once you have that done, the sooner you get your registration information in there, the sooner we can get them checked off and that they can get going for practice. Because if they don't have their physical forms in and the other requirements, they can't start practice. Okay. So when do practices begin? And this is a big one in particular for kids going from the middle school to high school. So this is updated for this year. So middle school practices will begin the first week of school. Typically, that is the second day of school. We try to give everybody a break, trying to figure out how they get on the bus and get home and all those other things. And oftentimes we will start on the second day of school for middle school. For middle school football, we will begin practice on the 22nd. It's actually heat acclimation. So they won't have their full uniform on. They will have a helmet. We'll give them their uniforms and stuff like practice uniforms and different things on that day. And then they will start regular practices. We usually give them off on that first day of school as well. And then they can get going on the second day of school. High school is different. So high school, there are actually the practices begin on August 8th. And I'm noticing a typo on here because both football and golf start on August 8th. Both football and golf start on August 8th. And I'll correct that when I repost this up there. That's new for golf this year. There's a lot of fighting for, course time with the courses. The preseason for golf is 3 days, and then they start competing on the 4th day. So we have the ability to get some of those rounds and those matches in before the school year even starts for golf. So that starts on the 8th. All those other practices begin on the 15th. And again, you would have to have all the things necessary as part of the registration process. And I did send out that email to the middle school and high school age kids that delineates what that means for each grade level. But that's for the fall. Middle school, typically for the winter, starts in November. And the reason it says to be determined is we have one gym to share with boys basketball and girls basketball. And sometimes within our league, there are some date adjustments. So I didn't want to give everybody the wrong date. This year, we started on the first week of November. I anticipate that it will be the first week of November for tryouts for basketball as well. But for the most part, the middle school wrestling anyway usually gets going somewhere, sometimes like with the high school the 18th, but sometimes we also start after Thanksgiving. So that really depends on where our numbers are and how we're doing with those things. But the high school practices for all, so swimming, the continuation of cheerleading, our winter track, our basketball and wrestling, all on November 18th. Okay. And then the spring is a little less, The spring is a little bit less complicated because we know right now middle school is starting on March 13th and high school is starting on the 6th. Now we're always dealing with weather at that time of the year. And all of our league usually starts for the middle school, sometimes even starts later than the 13th. That one extra week allows our grounds crews to get those fields in playing position for the middle school as well as the high school. So that's why there's a one week difference for that one. Okay.
Mike?
Yes, Mike, please.
With the wrestling, sometimes they'll bring them in for their weight certifications a little bit earlier.
Okay.
They may not start practice, but they will get certified for their weights with Keith, the trainer.
That's great. And so for those of you who aren't familiar with weight certification is, there is a formula that will help kids and the families and the coaches understand what the a healthy range is for them as far as what weight class they can be in and so on. And that's why that's another one of those factors why the dates for the middle school for the winter weren't really exact. And we'll have plenty of opportunity to get that communication out to everybody else. Okay. So at this point, each sport, there is a $95 activity fee, whether you're at the high school or the middle school. That can be done either by check or by using pay schools. For those of you who don't know what pay schools is, it's what we use for the cafeteria, the lunch as well. That's that same company. So you could do it either way. I said this part already that the formula is 108 different languages. If the language is an issue at all, please let us know and we'll do what we can to to explain things in a language that makes you most comfortable. And again, this is just a little thing to add there. Middle school practices and competitions typically are only on school days. There are from time to time things such as wrestling. There are tournaments that occasionally would be on a Saturday, but for the most part, if we don't have school, very rarely would we have practices or games or matches for the middle school. High school is a different story. High school, it's pretty much 6 days a week for the whole, season. We do recognize the Jewish holidays, Yom Kippur and Rosh Hashanah. We typically try to minimize practices for the high school on Sundays. It's very rare. There are some rare occasions that we would have competitions. For instance, the indoor track states happen to fall on a Sunday. We do try to avoid that when we can. But the coaches can give you the full outline what their expectations are. They do practice over Thanksgiving break. We don't practice on Thanksgiving Day. We do practice over the winter break as well in the high school. Swimming, for instance, is going to be dictated by, when we have pool availability and so on. But that's just to give you a heads up because that is, something that's different for middle school and high school. So a couple of just things. Some of the programs do have tryouts and cuts. It really depends on how many people, sign up and register. There's also the considerations of, do we have enough uniforms for everybody? While we want to minimize cutting at the middle school and high school level whenever we can, that sometimes is something that is necessary. So your coaches would be able to let you know in the past, where our numbers were, what we needed to do. But that's something just to be aware of. The middle school pickup times are very important. There are no late buses. We haven't had late buses for a long time here. I know that question comes up sometimes. The expectation is that the coaches stick around till the kids are picked up, and arrangements need to be made for the kids to be picked up immediately after practice or the games. High school does not have that expectation for their coaches to be around to make sure that they are, with those kids, that the expectation for high school kids is that they have made their own arrangements to get home. All game schedules are on digital sports. If you go to middle school and high school, we schedule using a format that's called League Minder. It's connected directly to digital sports. So if Mr. Bagnarelli or I have a game time change or a date change for some reason, when we put it on our software, it immediately goes to digital sports. As a parent and as a former coach and as an AD, digital sports is not an easy thing to use. You have to click it many times to get there, but that information is as updated as we have. There are mistakes in there sometimes, but it's usually pretty accurate. So middle school athletics are sometimes canceled due to rain. We will practice in the rain. Typically what we try to do is practice whenever we can. But if it is extreme cold or it's dangerous because of the weather or the fields are unplayable, sometimes those sports will be canceled. High school has more access to our turf fields. And so sometimes our teams, even when it's raining and the fields aren't great, can get out there and actually be, to go on even if we have a lot of rain. So it really depends. The middle school does a great job of having those school messengers information. We're trying to do a better job on our side and making sure, that information gets out and is not a lot of messages, but one message. Most of the coaches use Remind or something similar to that to get the information out immediately to the kids or to you as parents. But that is one of those things that we've been, having to navigate. That's, always something that there are things to change. So Middle school communication. We already talked about it. I said about the school messenger and remind. The athletic bulletin is something that is posted on the website weekly. Basically, Mike Bagnarelli's name is down here as a middle school AD. It's the same information for the high school. You can certainly reach out to me if you have middle school questions, that for some reason you can't get in contact with somebody. Booster clubs are a great place to get information. And if you aren't a member of the booster club or haven't been before, to get, that network together, and some of those parents can be the best ones of helping you learn what you need to know and how you have to navigate and what they've done in the past and so on. But certainly you can reach out to your coaches as well. And we also have an athletic bulletin at the high school. And there is a Twitter account and Instagram account at the high school level as well. All right, so I'm going to go in the chat right now, and I don't know if Mike wants to add anything. He certainly can, just to see if we missed anything. Got the football.
I've been answering the questions as they've been coming up.
Okay. So the Great Valley mountain biking program, we do have a few kids that do it in high school as well. The last I talked to Mr. Renarchek, who is our student activities coordinator, he said the club itself is not active in the middle school, or excuse me, in the high school, meaning that they are not going through them, but they are still competing and meeting with the same group of people that the middle school is meeting with. So that's good news that we still have that up and running.
Tim Leary is the contact person.
Okay.
For the mountain biking club at the middle school.
Okay. Yeah, Mike was spot on for the last couple of years with a 4:45, 5 o'clock for middle school. That's usually where we're shooting for. It's perfect. Majority of our practices, the ones that are right after school at the high school, a lot of them are 5 o'clock. Basketball, for instance, we have 9th grade basketball for boys. The girls have basketball, JV and varsity. The varsity basketball has different times. Cheerleading, sharing the space as long as volleyball. So some of those will change a little bit. But for the ones that have their own practice space, most of them are right around 5 o'clock. Some of the cross country and track will go to 5:30 because there's so many kids that are involved. But the specific coach would be a great person to double check with that. And I guess that's it. So I hope some of this information, was helpful. I'll certainly stay on here and look if there's anything else that's coming in the chat. Both Mike and I are available for emails if you want to send them out. We'll find out the information if we don't know it off the top of your head. I guess I'd like to take the opportunity to talk a little bit about two things that were different this year than before. One is transportation. If any of you have children that have been involved in athletics, the finances are there, meaning that the school district, we still have the same amount of money to cover the cost of the transportation to our games. However, we just don't have the bus drivers. And there are times that some of our games, our kids are leaving earlier. Middle school, typically has 12 games per season. Football is usually around 8. Half the games will be home and half will be away. So even if it's a 12-game season, there could be 6 times that we're leaving earlier than we want to. We certainly don't want that. Hopefully things have changed and we'll have more bus drivers. But we've also struggled for officials from, varsity down to middle school. So these are things that, we are open to suggestions. If anybody has any thoughts or ideas, it's not just how much we're offering to pay. This is across the country, not just in Pennsylvania or within the Chestnut. So those are two things that, that are a concern, that are ongoing. We're part of the process of trying to figure it out. We have moved, and this is different. We do allow self-transporting. And so that would involve at the high school level, if the parents are comfortable with it, they're allowed to make their own arrangements. So that would include the kids driving themselves. If that is something that's necessary, we try to stay away from that wherever we can. Our coaches like to meet and travel together as a team on a bus. But there have been some times that the times that we needed to leave were not, appropriate or the best way to do it. But also our middle school kids can be driven by their parents. And, sometimes that has helped us out a little bit where we didn't have to leave quite as early to get to, some of those away games. So again, I was, I don't know if I was going on and on. Hopefully the information was helpful. Again, if you have any other questions, don't hesitate to reach out to me, and, we'll try to, get that information to you as soon as you can. Mike, any thoughts of anything else that?
No, just, if you have questions, just touch base. You can email us anytime. We'll get right back. I know I'll get right back to you with the best answer I can have at this time.
Great.
I know for seventh grade kids that are going into seventh grade, it's new. So just, be prepared. It's a little bit different. Talk to your kids about their grades, make sure that they're keeping those up to date and, where they want to be, because that's important. There's eligibility requirements. So just want to make sure everybody understands that.
Yeah. Yeah, it's amazing. I could go back and see what the middle school was, because our numbers were really high for middle school too. And this does include some kids playing multiple sports being counted more than one time, but we had about 1,100 high school athletes last year. And in a year when we're coming off, the pandemic and so on, the number of kids were able to navigate that and be a part of the program. I think it's a really healthy thing on the physical and mental side to get involved, even if it's not athletics, whether it's band or chorus or, any of the drama clubs, all that stuff. Have those kids get as involved as possible. And, that's always healthy for them. Right. Okay. So I'm going to sign off for everybody. And again, don't hesitate to reach out to us. And, if there's anything we can do along the way, we'd be happy to get you that information. All right. Take care, everybody. Have a good night.
Take care, everybody. Have a great night.